I'm just sharing some information here and some further thoughts as related to these laws that have come into Alabama, or they're trying to pass, and Georgia and places like this in America, generally supportive of the kind of far-right extremist politics that got Donald Trump elected into the White House. And so, you know, there's this thing whereby they're saying that any woman who has an abortion later than 6 weeks has committed a criminal offence. She's actually a murderer. The fetus is a human being with full human rights, and therefore the woman can go to jail for 30 years or even 99 years. I mean, I'm not sure if the 99 years was for the people performing the abortions, 30 years for the woman. If she leaves Alabama and then to have an abortion elsewhere and goes back to Alabama, then she will be immediately arrested and imprisoned for 30 years. So it's very, very draconian, and as usual, the kind of people that make these judgments and decisions on behalf of other people, the supreme supremacists, I call them, the SS, initial-wise, supreme supremacists, they believe they have a right to tell other people what to do, you see, because this is the slave master mentality. That's why I call them the SS, because they think they have a right to dictate to other people and take control of their lives and their bodies. That's why I call them the SS, supreme supremacists. Usually you will find anybody who's supporting that kind of far-right politics are usually misogynist, and they're usually the kind of people that are of the ilk of, you know, spare the rod and ruin the child. So, you know, they advocate things like beating children with sticks and belts, whips and what have you see. And they're usually homophobic, usually racist, because, you know, supreme supremacists. And they don't take things into account. You see, what they don't understand, they've taken this Bible, half of them don't even understand really what the Bible truly is saying, what is being said there in that historical record of human testimony of life experience over the course of a few thousand years, because that's what the Bible represents. Okay? Despite the fact that nowhere in the Bible, not on any page, can I find anywhere that God says, thou shalt not end an unwanted pregnancy. Thou shalt not terminate a pregnancy. Not anywhere is that written in the scriptures. And often these people are coming from a scriptural point of view. Like I say, the common one, spare the rod and ruin the child, the idea of the creationism, you know, God created the world in 6,000 years, and anything that disputes that, things like geological evidence, fossils, no, they can all be dismissed because they don't fit in with their opinion and their understanding, their judgment. And this is where we come to the point of spare the rod and ruin the child. You see, these people do not understand that, in that sense, the higher intelligence that we call God, that is working through life all the time and is reflected in the Bible and all the works humanity does on this planet to this very day. The rod is the law, you see. So that statement was really for a society: spare the rod and ruin, and the children will be ruined. The children will be brought to ruin. In a lawless society, the children are brought to ruin. Now, a lot of mothers are choosing not to bring their children to ruin, because a lawless society allows for things like mass poverty, mass homelessness, mass slavery, people working 2 or 3 jobs just to keep a roof over their heads, basically for a subsistence level of life. People who, mothers are forced out to work, so they don't get any quality time with the children. They have to palm the children off to all the people. They have to pay all the people to look after their children so they can go to work for a corporation. A corporation that then later will be profiting off that child as yet another slave worker. The corporation that is turning around and telling these women, oh no, we're not paying, no, we're not supporting you social housing, we're not paying you a living wage, we're not going to give you adequate vacation time to spend with your children, we're not going to provide you with healthcare and an education for your child. How dare you ask for those things? You're a Soviet communist. You're a socialist, and that means you're a Soviet communist, because we all know that social needs, anybody asking for their social needs to be satisfied is a Soviet communist. And actually, we're going to pay our politicians, we're going to choose the politicians you'll be asked to vote for, and we're going to pay them to get them into power. We'll even employ a social engineering corporation to persuade people to vote for these far-right extremists. We will employ them to inject fear and to popularise craziness, crazy rhetorics, basically. Abortion is murder. We'll pay them so that then they will pass laws that will make it a crime for you to choose not to deliver another corporate slave for us to profit from, or to pack off to war, to go and die in the Middle East on behalf of the corporations and the corporate interests. And the other thing about these people who are so against abortion, apparently the unborn child has full human rights. Well, why aren't all of them outside the White House en masse going crazy about the fact that the United States has been using depleted uranium weapons willy-nilly throughout the Middle East, and as a direct result, thousands and thousands of babies have been miscarried, have been born dead, stillborn, severely deformed children. Often the children that do survive are severely deformed. People are dying, children and adults are dying of cancer illnesses related directly to the depleted uranium. Oh, never mind about them, because they're brown-skinned people, aren't they? Because behind all this, there's a misogynistic viewpoint that believes women should not have rights anyway, and actually giving women rights is the downfall of humanity. Okay, this is really where they're coming from. But also they're worried because, statistically speaking, white people in general in this world, because they form the most developed, allegedly most developed nations, and so the women in those nations have a degree of autonomy and choice, and they're choosing not to bring loads and loads of children into the world. So statistically, white people are producing less children than the brown-skinned people. But when you look at the brown-skinned people, the vast majority of them are living in countries where women have no rights whatsoever, and they have no rights of choice about even who they're going to have intimate, who they're going to have sex with. So it's like, of course they're going to have a lot more children because they don't have any choice about that. A lot of them haven't even got access to contraceptives. So instead of these people saying, well, do you know what? I think that we need to support, America needs to use its power to support nations in order to give women rights of choice and autonomy. Instead of using its power to support people like Juan Guaido, who wants to deny people their social rights and their human rights. Support people that actually uphold their population's human rights and give and support women's rights, like the Maduro government. Oh no, apparently he is bordering on Soviet communism. He's a danger and a threat to America. You know, this is the twisted, warped thinking that we are dealing with from these people, and they are on the podium, they're on the world stage now with their lead spokesperson, Trump, in the White House. Now, you know, people like Bo, men and women like Bo, as I say, they are really the God on this earth because they're talking sense and sanity. They are being like God. That's what we were created to be, like God. So Bo here is being like God, and he is a perfect example of it in the sense of he is following facts and information and arriving at a balanced understanding and allowing the facts and information to be the judge, you see. Because with the facts and information, you're taking everything into account. So you understand that actually telling women that 6 weeks, you've got a limit of 6 weeks to have an abortion, is basically banning abortion because a lot of women won't even know that they're pregnant until they're 8 weeks. A lot of the contraceptives that women use that fail and lead to an unwanted pregnancy, which is the most common cause of an unwanted pregnancy, actually failed contraceptives. A lot of those contraceptives, they stop menstruation. So a woman often doesn't even know she's pregnant until she's past eight weeks. Women have to terminate pregnancies because, you know, there's a threat of stillbirth or a late miscarriage, or the fetus is severely deformed, or she's too young, or she's got going through some serious problems in her life at that moment, or she's in severe poverty and the dad's abandoned her. All of these things are taken into account. People don't understand that there are thousands and thousands, if not millions, of happy, healthy, well-loved, well-provided for, cared for children in this world who are enjoying exactly that standard of life because mum and dad decided not to go through with an earlier unwanted pregnancy in which they could not provide all those things for that child and may actually have debilitated the parent so much they've never get into a position to be able to provide such a life for their child. You see, this is godlike thinking. This is higher intelligence. This is the intelligence that takes everything into account and doesn't try to abuse the law to create criminal laws, actually, an illegal law that seeks to control people. The other thing that we need to take into account is the other hidden agenda behind this. Because we know that with the restrictions now on immigration and the border controls and what have you, there's less trafficked children being able to get into America. Again, people generally are oblivious to the fact that child abuse is an industry and there is a huge market out there of depraved, sick individuals who crave, they literally crave. It is an addiction that they want children to enact their sadistic and brutal pleasures on and even murder them. Okay? There is a consumer demand for children that is every bit as strong and powerful as the consumer demand for illegal drugs. And often you find the two go hand in hand, that wherever there's child abuse and there is illegal drugs, and wherever there's illegal drugs there's child abuse and abuse against women, because we're talking about trafficking of women as well. So you're dealing with the consciousness that wants hundreds, thousands of unwanted babies to be produced every year. Most of them, a lot of them, are going to end up in the care system. So, then there's an army of people there. Oh yeah, give us some money. Give us money, world, government, people. Give us money. Oh, we're an orphanage looking after these children. Help fund the children. But no money for these single mums who are expected to raise give birth to an unwanted pregnancy, see through. Okay? There's nothing there for her. There's nothing there for her. What do these corporations, what do these military do for the mothers of the soldiers that have died serving their agendas? They're actually criminal agendas abroad. What do those mothers get? Yeah, they might give something if the child was married, but really, what do those mothers get? What does society actually give to a woman, a mother in this society, apart from take from her? Like I say, expect her to spend all her life scraping, working her fingers to the bone, the blood, sweat and tears of raising a child. What for? What for? What is she getting out of it when she can't even get any quality time with the child? Because any spare time she does have from work, she's got a whole heap of domestic chores to attend to that she didn't have time to do because she's been working. So you're talking about stressed out parents, working, both of them working often 2 or 3 jobs, children being palmed off to whoever. It's absolutely outrageous and ridiculous. So, you know, I've made a comment here on Bo's video. I said, okay, 99 years jail for abandoning a pregnant partner or one night stand, and let's say 30 years for failing to pay child maintenance. Okay? Equal rights. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. You're going to start criminalising her, life imprisonment because she's refused to give birth to an unwanted pregnancy. Well, you know, you better start criminalising the guys that have abandoned her or are refusing to pay maintenance. Because where are all these fathers? If the fathers really wanted the children, no woman ever hears a man say to her, get rid of it, does she? No, no. A man never says that to a woman, does she? That should be a criminal offence then, shouldn't it? If a man turns round and says to a woman, get rid of it, oh, actually, he's asking her to commit a crime. He's inciting her to commit crime, inciting to commit crime. Attempted murder. If these fetuses have human rights to such a degree that this mother must, her body must provide for its every need, then what about the human rights of the child once they're born? What does, if society as a whole is going to create a law that's going to force every woman to have every pregnancy, whether it's rape, incest, whatever, what is society doing then to provide for those children, for their true needs? Because children have a right to a home and a family life. If America was a nation that supported human rights, there would not be one single homeless person in America. There would be a national health service. There would be a totally free education system. Because these are the things that a society needs. Social needs. In order to raise the next generations. To produce a better, happier, healthier, more balanced, lawful world. And where there's no law, the children are ruined. And there's no law ruling America right now. Because apparently, people at the top are all above the law. You know, the bankers are too big to prosecute. Donald Trump's too big to prosecute. He can commit sex crimes, do this, that, the other. Nobody's ever going to call him to task. The bankers, they can steal billions, trillions, swindle people, rob people of the pensions, make people homeless, destitute, drive people to suicide. And then get rewarded for it with a huge bailout. But nothing. Where's the reward for these women that are producing children? And instead all they're getting is criticised because, oh, you're not producing enough. Or how dare you end an unwanted pregnancy. You know, in Britain, and this is what I mean about the risk of unwanted children. Masses of unwanted children being abandoned to the care system. Because that's what's going to end up being the results if, say, the whole of America adopted this. You're going to end up with thousands, millions of unwanted children, okay, who are going to be cared for by all and sundry, and a lot of them paedophiles, because that's how they get access to them. So in Britain, our childcare system, we know, is heavily infiltrated with child abusers, and it has been for a very long time. Now, I do my research because I work with children's rights. I directly confront the authorities and on behalf of children's rights. And during the course of my research, you know, I've discovered official studies. These are official studies by trusted sources that state 200 babies a year, on average, around 200 babies a year, go permanently missing from social work records. These are cared for babies that have been handed over into social service, usually taken off the mother by force because she's got postnatal depression, and permanently removed from her care. 200 of them go missing every year, and nobody knows what's happened to them. Because, you know, once they take the babies off these mothers, they then put them through what they call forced adoption, saying, no, it's going for forced adoption. No, you can't see your baby because, you know, the baby's going for forced adoption, and you're just going to be establishing bonds that are then going to have to be broken. There's all these protocols with it. So they take the baby, that mother never sees the baby, the family never sees the baby again. Nobody knows what happens then to that baby. Where do 200 babies go missing a year to? Off social work records. I'll leave you the link to my video on it. Where do they go? The higher the age of the child, as the child rises, so too do the numbers of children that permanently disappear from social work records. Under fives is even more. As I say, the higher the age of the child, the more of them go missing every year. This is from the care system. Don't tell me, well, I've seen it for myself. The USA care system is no different. It's like all these children that have been torn away from their parents at the border, and nobody knows who that child belongs to now, has disappeared into the alleged care system of America. How do we know what's happened to those children? Because we're living in a world where people aren't taking everything into account, where they're not addressing or accepting any true level of reality. And they're trying to impose their warped, ill-informed opinions and judgments. Based on what? Based on myth, based on lies, based on prejudice. And they're trying to impose them on us through the legal system. They have hijacked the legal system and have turned it around into something evil that criminalises the innocent and defends and protects, criminalises the innocent and defends and protects the guilty. And this is very, very, very serious. As I say, you know, when women are being told, oh, you're going to go to prison for 30 years if you end an unwanted pregnancy, if you've been raped, if you know, even products of incest. I mean, like I say, if you're going to do that, then you're going to have equally strict laws. But of course, it is not enforceable, really, is it? How are you going to get these guys who have left? Oh, it isn't my baby. So what, you're going to have to wait for 9 months till the baby's born to prove that it's his baby? By which time he could have disappeared to where? It's going to be very difficult to enforce this, isn't it? Once it comes to a man. No, the way is that women have rights, women have choice over their bodies, and nobody's got a right to say otherwise. And yes, I agree, after 20 weeks is very late to terminate a pregnancy, and it should only be done in very special circumstances where there's risk to the mother's health or there's something seriously wrong with the fetus. And in fact, very, very few women, I can't really think of it, very few women would choose to have an abortion after 20 weeks unless there was some serious issue. And always that is supported by medical professionals, because they're telling her there's a serious issue. And it might be better to euthanise this pregnancy, because that is euthanasia after 20 weeks, because the nervous system has developed, there's brain activity. So, you know, at that point, you'd have to euthanise the pregnancy. It's not really abortion, you'd have to euthanise, because you'd have to do it humanely. But like I say, if you're going to start talking about human rights for a fetus, you better start talking about human rights for a living child. And again, I repeatedly share this in all my videos, okay? You remove that label, the legal, like I say, they've hijacked the law and they put this definition of children as a minor human being. Legally, our children are defined as minors. That means insignificant, unimportant, trivial. So if they want women to be producing children in this world, then, you know, you better remove that legal definition of an inferior human being against our children, because women have stood up for their rights. You know, we understand that racism, judging people inferior according to the colour of their skin or their gender or their class, their economic wealth, that is prejudiced. That's robbing them of their rights. So why is it that all those groups are still prepared to accept that our children are inferior, that our children are a minor concern, they're minor human beings? But, oh no, apparently they're a full human being with full human rights when they're a fetus in the room, in the womb, but once they've come out of that womb and they've been born, oh, now you're a minor human being. And this world will not provide a single thing for you. Okay, the corporations, they're not going to pay any taxes because they don't need to provide for you. They don't need to provide your healthcare, your education. They don't need to make sure that you grow up in a family home, that with parents that have quality time and a good enough life to actually be stable and stress-free enough to give you the love and care and attention that you truly need as an individual. No. We'll just accept that what gets dragged up, whatever manages to get through the education system, how many parents are prepared to have been able to work the fingers to the bone to pay for you, we will just vamp off that, use it. I tell you, this is madness, how any society can accept it, and now even bring this dare to even suggest it. Never mind get it through into legislation. America, you're on a precipice, and you are looking down into absolute insanity. I tell you, get with the beaus of this world. Get with the men and women like him who are talking sense and sanity and balance. Because I'll tell you now, socio-capitalism is a long way from Soviet communism. And this, what these pro-lifers, what these far-right extremists now are imposing on America, I tell you, Donald Trump talking about a coup? No, this is a coup, America. It's a coup against your Constitution. It's a coup against your human rights. It's a coup against humanity.